Yes, it's MJ from Alta Love. How are you? I was sitting waiting to hear what I should discuss in today's share, and freedom kept popping in, and I was thinking freedom break. I feel like there's been shares on that level of the freedom break, and I feel like we've been in that energy increasingly so for months now. This like running to the finish line, or this feeling of like the relentlessness of the work, the inner work. Hi Fifth. The so like the treading water and getting kind of tired, and there's another feeling I get of like it's just relentless leaps, like there's just a leap after a leap after a leap. And you know, when we took that first leap, we thought we would just land and start gardening or something, and it's been this sort of like, yeah, I just see it and feel into it as this like accelerated, like shifting timelines, and there's like all these different cogs or placements that need to, hi Aphrodite, that need to landing was like a big part of this. So it was like freedom, and then our landing. Hello Zena, hi from New Zealand, how are you? So we've had these leaps, we have absolutely just taken the leaps, and thus the leap is what really takes us into what some people call like new timelines, or just, you know, we talk about timelessness and how energy doesn't, there's no beginning and there's no end to energy. And so being mindful of even the expression of timeline potentially binds us to time as a construct. And again, as sort of these infinite eternal beings, we are not bound to time. And this is such a like out of our head construct. It's as in quite far from how our intellect has been trained to intellectualize, thus trained to perceive. You know, the construct and the stories we've told have been perpetuated over generations. And so there's a kind of clearing happening, or a healing happening, globally speaking, on this planet, part of this planet's awakening, that is basically healing, like I'm hearing 6 and more generations. So it's important, and I think this is probably like the critical importance of detaching from thought in the present here now moment when we're having some kind of profound emotional and or spiritual, you know, experience in this moment. And because there's such a collective shame imprint, it's really important for us to be able to stand our ground when it comes to, you know, this is sacred to me and I need to be feeling this and I need to process this. So I often go round and round in circles, because I see a lot of the kind of healing modalities, almost like this next level. It's not next level really, it's just another train. It's like another distraction train of all these different modalities that are popping up everywhere, and like, we can fix you, we can make you better, we can save you. And yeah, we all do help each other for sure. I've worked with healers and people who do things like emotion code and timeline healing, all this stuff, and it's fascinating, and it really works when you have a powerful intention to heal and you work with other people and you really, really believe that's what it's going to do. That's what it does. Just like placebo effect with pharmaceutical drugs. Ultimately, it's all the self, healing the self. And yet we create these circumstances which align most harmoniously with our beliefs that we've constructed. And then the solution, or what have you, drops into our reality. And so I'm personally I love you guys. Basically, yeah, if you believe it, it works. And then something else I'm getting is like swing it the other way, even when we do things like, so we can even rise above the duality of again, like the right wrong. And however, in unity and divinity, we take right action. We take action from the heart, which is in alignment with the whole. However, there's a lot of collective agreements in the whole which are not vibrating on these or in these more expansive perspectives. And so it's up to many of us, which is why we have to empower one another to choose consciously what truly resonates with you and have faith in that guidance, because it is ultimately teaching us. It's continually teaching us. And if we deny our desire, or we deny our noodle worthiness, then we basically deny the self, and then we deny the self for the totality. And this is ultimately part of why I do this, is there's all these things going on inside that I feel there's more and more of us having these awakenings, and thus activating one another and like sparking the collective with this light. And I know for a lot of us, forgiveness is huge. I feel inherently like forgiveness, and when I was sitting A Course in Miracles, I would noodle with this, and I feel it to be really quite accurate. Hi Amit, with my kidlet, sending love and abundance. Thank you. Right back at you, Amit. So much love and abundance for you as well. Have a gorgeous day with the children, with the kidlets. Yeah, so like the really, in truth, forgiveness is always the forgiveness of self, because we are one with other. Isn't that funny? Like, and so we can continue to do the work inside the self to like forgive all of our past, forgive our past grievances, forgive, you know, like forgive the entirety of humanity. But that, sometimes it's more difficult for the empath, but that includes ourselves. Because if we do truly take responsibility for the totality, then we got to forgive all the shit. We have to forgive all this low-level creation. We have to forgive all of this cunning corruption. We have to forgive all of this deception and lies and veils, and still see people in their divinity regardless of their shitty behavior. Hey, Omega. And this is something I endeavor to do this practice continuously, and it's not necessarily obvious, and it's not necessarily straightforward all the time. And like, we have to go easy on ourselves, because if there are wounds, and this is something I'm experiencing more recently as I'm tying up loose ends and kind of moving through different energy patterns, is if you've been wounded really badly, and then we're having to review stuff, and then part of that wounded might be a group of people, or might be one person, and you've got like some scarring or some scar tissue because of all of the battles, or all of the beating up that happened at one time in your life. And then if somebody comes along and starts like poking at the scar, you're probably going to be a bit like, hey, leave me alone. Oh, ow, 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 like leave me alone. And this, I feel, is part of the strength that's coming through a lifelong empathic journey. At the same time, conscious transformation and empowerment alongside that empathy, right? And so in these energies that I feel have really, really taken off in as far as this turning of the tides, this rising of empathy, this rise of love and compassion, it's that when we really break through some of our old patterns and our old people-pleasing patterns, what I've noticed, certainly in the last phase, like 6 to 9 months or so, I face confrontation a lot more easily, i.e. I can step into the kind of the fear of conflict a lot more easily and say what I need to say. And I'm a lot better at, if there is a lot of upheaval emotionally, to step back and say, I need space so that I can review and look over this. Because so often people project stuff onto the empath, and then before we know it, we're going wild. And then we have this whole thing because the other will make us feel guilty. So the convoluted layer of kind of abuse tactics and control tactics, and also our own, almost to the point of feeling like a primordial pull into our old patterns of feeding people shitty behavior, right? And again, we can forgive ourselves. But if we feel better moving in a new direction, or feel better moving in a direction that just feels better for us, we're allowed to do that. And we're allowed to stand up for ourselves. And by gosh, we're allowed to be angry. And I swear to God, this is such a huge piece in our world. And I feel it a lot for men as well, because I do get this piece, in particular men who tune in here and men who are sensitive, is that they have even more fear around expressing anger because of all of the backlog. And again, these like sort of perpetual swings and backlashes around domestic violence, right? And domestic abuse. So a lot of sensitive men are super duper frightened to express anger for fear of violence, right? For fear of it escalating and getting worse. And yet I'm so aware of how important it is for us to feel that anger, to let it rise up. And yet, here's the juicy nugget. And this is the piece that ultimately requires our discipline, is if we can catch ourselves, if we can catch ourselves acting out, and then like hold the space for it and feel those anger threads. Notice the thought trying to project the anger onto this person or that person or that person, and just be able to like feel the anger, because this is the whole point of mindfulness and meditation, so that we can do this work that we all resonate with and talk about. But we have to be able to feel, in the light of our awareness, be present with that heat, that power, right? Because underneath that's like the waves. That's when we really start to get the clearing waves of potential wounding that we've been harboring, that anger has been potentially in patterns deflecting away. So the anger, in a weird way, can deflect our potential for healing, at the same time as somebody who's been better at working through all that, and having been an empath who's always responsible, who's always kind of there for people who da-da-da-da-da-da. In the turning of the tides experience, what I experienced was getting angry, taking space, and then going, hold on a sec. You know, that's not my anger. And you coming into my energy telling me I need to do this or this or this for you, or anyone else for that matter, that is not in alignment with my heart and my soul. And you can't force me. You know, it's like telling someone who's been abused to go, after they've fled from an abusive situation, telling them to go back in because you've got to be responsible for healing all those abusers. That's not our responsibility, and it never has been, and it never will be, and it cannot be. It's not about our sacrifice and our martyrdom. It's about our expansive sensitivity so that we can be of service here. But in truth, where that expansive sensitivity is wanting to take us into higher joy, into higher radiance, or just radiance, joy, playfulness, we remember why we wanted to come here, right? And we're choosing to embody that energy here now. It's just that we've got some distortion, density, and stuff to work through. And yeah, we have great potential and power for ourselves and the collective. There is an essence, of course, of doing this work for others so that we are all in harmony and in service to one another, which just makes everything better. But we're not here, you know, to play these like healing games, because the essence of the Christ is that we're already healed. We're already healed. Even the fucking idea that we're all these lowly sinning humans is such a lie. And I think that's a big part of it, is that we really truly are rising above duality, in as far as we're rising above the lie of the original sin. And so we reconnect our heart space, we bow to our own altar of forgiveness, and we are free. That's like the peace. The peace is like the freedom when it goes within our own heart, and our own heart is in true service and benevolence and grace with the entire whole of humanity. Then we truly can forgive one another, because we recognize that we are the whole, right? Fifth, I'm going to read you. Yes, the collective affects everyone. No one is immune to this, which is why we're truly one. Precisely. And this is, I suppose this is more and more why we empower the empath, because these sensitivities, we need them really to rise to the surface. Like, i.e., this is why we all share and why we all connect, because that sensitivity is, I want to say, like the gateway to the kingdom. Because there's like sometimes a whole bunch of scary, mazy stuff that we have to work through, and then eventually we arrive in the kingdom. We're like, oh my God, I remember. You know, and then really, from my direct experience, once you kind of get into that liberation flow, once you feel into that level of sort of exaltation and bounty and truth and love, you're not going back. Like, that's just common sense, is that you're not going to go back and play petty mind games with, in essence, the blind. So, and that's another aspect of the forgiveness piece. Often in the awakening journey, we can start to feel alien, and then also look back at the brothers and sisters in 3D reality and almost be quite hard on everybody. I do it too. You know, oh, but why aren't people awake? Or, you know, and really we want to just, oh, the love, the benevolence, everyone is on their divine path, and the truth is, it's the blind leading the blind, right? Like, so hi guys, hi Chic Équilibre, hello Julie. Julie, I say en français parce que Chic Équilibre, it's en français, Julie, c'est un gars, you know, that's a French name as well. So it's like the oneness factor, which, and again, these are really, I would say, simple ways. Hi Mike, how are you, my friend? Ah oui. You know, these are some of the ways I just like to break it down in really simple terms. It's like there's separation perception or unity perception. Separation perception sees us all as separate. Unity perception sees us all as one. If we're all one, like everything we feel and experience is somehow connected to everything and everyone else. Something that was, you know, just obvious to me in my awareness, certainly late teens, early 20s, around these awakenings, was that I'm like, wait, why are we destroying the planet? We live here. And this sense of like, why are we dominating and trying to control this earth? She's our home. We live here. We're connected to her, right? And so this awareness of earth as the intelligent life force that we're, you know, we're in connection to, it's like that really is, that connection is what we want to be like yoking and bringing out. And it doesn't have to be necessarily just this like rolling around in mud, you know, tree hugging, although I'm pretty sure hugging trees is pretty badass, and like, you know, being barefoot all the time. But certainly when we're looking at the context of what's going on in our cities and our metropolis and our the hive mind, which I like to call, which some of us like to call it, it is like, well, hive. And for a sensitive, you can feel it. You can go into like public you know what I'm talking about, subways, right? So you can go into subways and you can go into these like busy areas and feel the hive-like nature. And this is ultimately why I can see in the human biome, what am I talking about? Bodies. Like, so like my last visit to the city was like looking around and seeing the kind of gray like exhaustion of people really my age, mostly my kind of peer age bracket, and you know, working really hard and then like going to the gym after work. Like, I'm sure a lot of us here can relate to that kind of like, that kind of grind, and then like knowing that they're, you know, gonna go to the gym after work, and then they're gonna come home and have to make dinner, and then they just have to go and do it all. And like I can see it in their expression, and then vibrationally it's like I can feel it in, and now this is like a really heightened way to live, right? And I, you know, wonder everyone's on different medications and different, and it perplexes me as well. We live in this culture, this mainstream culture, and let's be honest, whether it's New Zealand, England, Australia, America, or Canada, or Russia, we're all essentially under the same control and domination system of giving our power away. And so en masse, we're all, you know, medicated, and then we're pretending like we're not. Yeah, precisely, zombie land. And this is the kind of the weird binary, like, of that hive of the zombies. People are just like, and I can reckon you, because of that general hive frequency, people aren't resting properly at night. So people aren't like going to sleep and having some deep restful rest. No, people are like, okay, going to bed now, because they're effing exhausted, but they're also a little bit wired. And so there's not this sort of deep rest state happening. And it's funny, and I'm thinking about yoga and the yoga tradition, and how early on in the trainings, I learned about how Shavasana, the corpse pose, was like the most important position in yoga. And not obviously like you'd be like, oh, sweet, Shavasana, I'll just lie there. But the truth is, like, that pose basically means to rest in peace, die to the illusion. So let us not be dictated to by everything that's going on around us. Let's die to that and rest in peace, which is rest in the altar of your heart, rest in the heart of knowing, rest in your heart, because your heart is connected to everything. And if we can rest there, then essentially we birth the kingdom. We make manifest the kingdom of God, which is the Christhood in all of us, which I'm pretty sure is what we want and what all of the planet wants as well, right? Aphrodite, we are vibrating, you are vibrating. There's like this is bullshit, I'm just going to be out for myself. They're like, this is bullshit. Yeah. Well, oh, sorry, I got that about like the reactivity around people waking up. Oh, yeah, fifth world, nice insight, because that's also just part of our own, i.e., like, whether it was us 20 years ago or 10 years ago, people are just on their path, and they're gonna awaken when they awaken, and it's all, and I guess that hivey type mind, it's there really as a symbolic, energetic frequency to startle us, probably to awaken us, right? Freedom. However, you know, wrapping it up in a whole context here, it is all about freedom now. And then there's all of these sort of like spectrum type of things, as far as like our freedom is in the heart, and it is in service to the whole, but it doesn't necessarily look how we think it looks. And the truth, to me personally, obviously, because a lot of this new agey or even law of attraction stuff or online marketing stuff, it uses a lot of this kind of language, but I'm picking up on the subtleties. It's still coming from control and domination. Why? Because it's linked in aspect to a false economy, right? And so I'm still like noodling with that form of energy. But this is where we do truly rise above our freedom being in connection to a bank account or our money, because people for a long time now have bang on about like financial freedom. Now, I'm not here to deny the economy. I'm not here to deny the fact that we all are using currency and need money and all of this stuff. However, in truth, for me personally, All to Love is like that kind of movement which pioneers us into a more harmonious economy where more of us have an even playing ground. Now that comes down to our, Julie's just making me think of that, comes down to our education. That comes down to our ability to create functional, relatively joyful, and or, let's be honest, it's not about being joyful all of the effing time. However, it is about creating an education system which teaches us how to handle and be with our emotional body, not just deny it and or explode and shit and beat people up by it and then try to pretend that these things aren't happening. It's about healing the education system so that we're teaching the truth of our existence more so, which is really coming from the love, heart, vibrashe, right? Right? And I think so many people, like doctors and lawyers and teachers and people from all different walks of life who have gone into their field of profession out of the goodness of their heart, going, yes, inspire and create and educate, how wonderful. And then slowly but surely the system is breaking them down. And if it's not breaking them down, it's triggering everybody around them. And I think this is where we're all coming up into these different culmination points of going, this is the next step now. No, it's not. And who, let's be honest at this point, like why would we want to control our lives? After everything we've been through, where we've realized that trying to control the divine is absolutely effing useless, then let go. And like, of course, at the same time, the divine wants us to be held and supported and loved. But there I'm thinking again about Shavasana, I like to call it. My adult nap time. I'm like, I'm having shavash, which is, again, just adult napping, but it's still shavash. So it's like, that is part of my practice personally, is like, if I start to feel those stress levels get too much, one, yes, I can process emotional storms and clear out and have amazing healings and all of this kind of stuff, but also just lie there and relax. And that's, I'm selling this lifestyle to you guys. So I cry a lot and I sleep a lot. I cry a lot. So they're like, wow, that's called depression. I'm like, yes, but here's the thing about our system as well, like mental awareness. Let's talk about mental health, everybody. And I'm like, okay, if we're going to talk about mental health, I'm pretty sure we should talk about spiritual health and emotional health as one. Like, I'm pretty sure the studies have already proven to us that our thought frequencies absolutely, without a shadow of doubt, affect our cellular activity. We do know this. And yet all of these emotions, everyone's like, just try to control them. Just meditate your emotions away. And I'm like, can we, as a society, can we get to a point where we're like we can be okay with feeling, we can be, and this is where our adulthood really comes up. We need to, as the adults, this is us being able to just hold space and not tell our little children, you know, not tell Bobby Joe when he has a bit of a fit, like, you're bad. You're a bad person, and then forever that child is imprinted with a belief that his emotions are bad, and or he's bad for feeling those emotions, right? So acknowledging and lifting the lid around all of this stuff, harmonizing our education system from a perspective of love, which can then permeate every other, the law, the medical profession, all of these areas of our system can go through their own revolution, which of course sustains the whole. It means that human beings are no longer slaves. You know, I have utmost respect for doctors and lawyers who work their arses off, and any one of us at any given time have gone to hospital and had an injection of morphine or had a group of people save our lives potentially, right? And obviously I'm definitely into the alternative stuff as well, but I think sometimes people assume, because I might come across as more alternative, that I'm like anti-pharma or anti modern medicine, and that's not the case at all. I'm like, no, modern medicine has helped us a great deal, and I have like uber duper respect for doctors and nurses who bust it, you know, just to keep us well. At the same time, I'm like, if we lived in a self-responsible culture and society, and if we lived in a culture which propagated well-being rather than fear and violence, then maybe those doctors and lawyers, I'm talking from the NHS perspective, that they wouldn't be under such strain. That maybe if we didn't have both parents having to go to work to just pay the bills, then teachers wouldn't have to be so tired working 8 or 12 or how many hours a day a teacher works, right? And then kids wouldn't also have to be trained to be slaves, and they could come into school for a couple hours a day and learn what needs to be learned or shared. You know, let's be honest, in my experience, certainly, learning is just obvious. Like, we don't need to sit down and be bombarded with information to learn. Like, learning is just inevitable co-creative experience of life. Amen, sister. Amen. But like, for Rizzle, I'm like, and this is the juice. I'm like, we have We have the wisdom, we have the knowledge, and thus, there we go. And I think that's why we're, okay, yeah, we can still forgive everybody, we can still da-da-da, but we are really ramping up. Like, and I know this, that a lot of us here that are resonating here, we've been on the path for a while, you know, and we didn't, for whatever reason, we didn't just stop at this place or this place or this place. We're here still going, but we have to keep infusing this energy into this world. As annoying as it is sometimes, this is still the world that we're here for. This is still the world that we're in service to. You know, I know, like a lot of us, precisely, Julie, oh my geez. And so many of us, I think, can look back at our upbringing and go, gosh darn, I would have been a healthier kid if I hadn't, right? If I hadn't been plucked into school, if I hadn't been force-fed certain types of information, and if my education system had been with me and the essence of me and worked with me to bring that out, and then I work with it, it's like, you know, however, it's like, so for a lot of us, you know, 10 years on and 15 years on and 20 years on, and it's all ramping up, and we're not denouncing and we're not running away, and we're right there, we're facing our lives, and we're here with everybody else in it, right? And so we're being asked. And this is the weird thing, oftentimes, and we do know this, but like our freedom is really on the other side of some of these big fears that might be coming up for us. So the fears, and ultimately they are very much representative of our path and the next phase of our manifestation. I'm hearing it's really important for us to not get swept up in the 3D egoic perception of what we might have a little bit of weird different emotions around the next phase of our path, but remember to harmonize them from your center. And as in, all we need to do is remember that we're just here for one another, and that it's pretty simple to just find a loving perspective. And that means like sifting through your own BS until you're like, oh. And when I say they're like, oh, it's because I'm off the hook and they're off the hook. Like, true forgiveness doesn't carry that. At the same time, I'll always empower you to do what's right for you. We're not here to force each other to hang out with certain people, or to make a certain amount of money, or to have any kind of certain job. Basically, we're all here essentially just to be ourselves, like our most innocent, authentic, joyful, playful, curious. Like, what is love? Does anybody really know? I don't think so. But, you know, at least some of it is getting better, even though this journey is weird as hell. It is getting better, right? Aphrodite, girlfriend, absolutely. And here's the thing, though, what you've just highlighted. This is subtle. Wait, I'm going back to read it. You said about there's lots of right, I love that, find a loving perspective, because there's so many right ways to look at things. Precisely. Now that is a loving perspective. A loving perspective allows us all to have little different perspectives, little different ways of perceiving the reality, the window of the reality that we're looking at. But fear would be like, no. Like, I'm the only right way to perceive, you know? So the fear would make us feel limited around this, would make me think that, and it's so funny because love can contain the fear perspective. Even in love can be like, like, I even love that perspective. That would make us all think that we can't grow, that we can't evolve beyond where we are. Or, you know, the fearful perspective that would make us all think, well, this is just the way it is. Like, I swear to God, like, hearing that from people increasingly, especially after the awakenings, I was like, okay, so change is the only constant, but this is just the way it is. So that's not, so what? We're just gonna perpetually hurt ourselves and one another and the planet? Like, that's a really good plan. Well done, humans. Thanks, Aphrodite. I appreciate. I don't even like control that shazbot. It just like spews out of my mouth. And I do this in the yoga vibrashe as well. My yoga teaching has evolved to the point that like in certain in certain, it's not like I'm proud of it, but like in certain sessions, I find myself swearing and I'm like, oh, not unprofessional. But again, because higher self is the true, like, always as well with higher self, it would be with the right group of people, if you know what I mean. Like, it would never slip, like a potty language thing would never slip in the environment where it wouldn't have been received well, and or it would take people out of their practice. But in certain contexts, so yeah, I'm that kind of yoga teacher, right? We are all master actors here. Oh, hey, Matthew. Fear instinct acts to preserve the fear instinct, right? So yes, and that is so much aligned with our, how we understand the egoic function, right? And the ego doesn't want us to break down or whatever, because that would then break it down. That would then prove it wrong. It would, oh, and then that's where along this journey, our ego in such a way gets smaller and smaller. Our fear-based perspectives get smaller and smaller, and they become less the dictator in our mind, and then this becomes the dictator, right? This become, or that's not even the right word. All these words are getting changed around, like control. Somebody, I think it was Aaron, was like, that's so we could use the word draw. Oh yeah, and then I use the word direct. So instead of using controlling things, which sometimes to me has like a fearful connotation or a limiting connotation, then I think about direct. And then this was very much from an insight of owning the totality, which is basically letting the fullness of your light beam and your light essence basically integrate fully all of the darkness shadow aspects, which is basically you just owning all the darkness, fear, and density and distortion and corruption and all of it from you and other, owning as much of it as possible, integrate, and then literally just like poof, shine the light. But that allows us to direct consciousness. Something I get about, this is where again we get tripped up a little bit with manifestation though, is that our manifestation becomes so small. You know, and I've been there. I did the whole, like, I manifested my car and I manifested this, that, and the other, right? And then it just kind of was like, okay, what about all the other, like, how does it work if we're working to manifest a new world? Let's have a chat about this. Enter Ultra Love TV. Hey guys, like, it's good when our manifestation practice is helping us improve our lives, but I know that a lot of us are also here to assist. And do you know what I just got? And I think I'm going to close it there. Let us remember, and you guys know this is, I say all of this for myself, that we're here to assist in the awakening. And then I'm just like, oh yeah, we are it. We don't have to do anything. We don't have to try to assist or try to awaken people. It literally is just on the journey that we're on. And with that, it means that some of us have to keep stepping into stuff that might be scary and might be a bit like, I don't want to have to do it. Or weirdly stepping into roles that we kind of never imagined, i.e. like, I don't know, public speaking roles, or suddenly someone's like, oh, hey, oh, so-and-so said this, would you mind coming here and teaching this? And you're like, oh, I never even blah. So like there could be all of these different unexpected things, and it's like, go for it, take a leap. We're in such this manifestation open portal belt that and I'm doing this in my own life. Some of you saw that I, like, after 4 months off teaching, where I was like, I'm not teaching yoga again. I have this sudden, like, one, because online entrepreneurship, I've been terribly isolated, and I'm like aware that I've swung to the extreme, and now is often my childhood pattern of run, crash out, run, crash out. I'm fully seeing it now and anchoring into that to find more day-to-day balance, right? And so the opportunity, I suddenly get the little intuitive nudging, and then I just put a feeler out, and of course, as it happens, there's one yoga teacher doing one, or maybe I think 2 classes on a Thursday for the elderly. So there's no classes for the young moms. There's no classes for the business owners locally. And of course, the actual gym owner guy was looking for somebody. So I was like, Pop! I'm like, do you guys need some yoga? Because yoga is such a valuable thing to share. And if anything, when I'm around people, I'd rather be in that environment than say at a pub or something, and that's just my personal preference. So those of us here, we might be guided or asked to set up community, to start community. And then that also makes me think, like, here we are, this is our community, and we all inspire one another to stay strong in what it is we're being asked to do. And here's the thing, again, for the empath, for a lot of us, we have the cellular memory of persecution. So this is why there's like a double edge to some of the roles or some of the things that we're being asked or expected to do. The fear we might feel around it is almost unwarranted, but it's because the fear we feel around it is like walking into a pattern where it didn't end well. So here is our opportunity to shapeshift all this stuff that's coming in now so that we don't go into that same pattern. We simply stare it down and we visualize and imagine how this is going to go. It's like I'm seeing us, let's start to part the waters. Let's all take on the Moses energy of, like, instead of feeling like we're gonna constantly get knocked down by our adversaries or by the system, it's a complete reversal of thinking, right? Now we're gonna change the whole game. Now we're gonna step into those roles and go, we're gonna listen here now. And then we can part the water and we can let people heal. Right? Parting of the water is quite representative of, I would say, is one, we clear the way, and then also that parting is that the people can be very clean. It's getting biblical, people. I know, like, what? I know we do talk about Christ and stuff from time to time. So that's it for me today, you guys. I really love and appreciate you. Take a leap. I think a lot of us, honestly, all of us on some level have taken a leap. Otherwise, I don't think we'd be here. I don't think there's any chance or way that you guys would be able to resonate with what I'm talking about if you're not leapers of lovers of life. I really appreciate you guys, Moses energy. Parting the waters. Jesus coding. It just happens, right? I know, Matthew, this is it. And if anything, I think the less we try, the more it is. Your voices are classic. Someone else said that about, like, the inner child, of, like, seeing the child. I'm like, Mike, same. My higher self only had to kick me in the head. I have had that. In fact, I've had, like, almost a constant pay attention. So it's really well. Thank you, Chiquiki Libre. Well, Fifth, Julie, Aphrodite, Matthew, Chiquiki Libre, all of you that are here, I love you guys so much, and I'm so thankful for this community. Sending you guys massive love and virtual hug. Virtual hug. You guys have a beautiful, beautiful day. And I'm so looking forward to seeing you guys tomorrow. Feel free to check out alltolove.com, subscribe, and share, and do all that good stuff, alright? I love you guys.